Oh, the things we say, Christian phrases that keep us stuck, hidden, and hurting. This series has been going on for a little while now, so if you're just catching in, I hope that you'll watch the other videos in the series where I'm covering that sounds weird the way I said it, where I'm covering numerous phrases that may be scripture phrases or things that we say, and sometimes people call it like christianese, but they're different things that we say that have a meaning tied to it that keep us stuck, hidden, and hurting. As with all of the phrases that I talk about, there are times when I believe, sometimes those phrases are truly helpful for somebody. What matters is the meaning and often the motivation when you're hearing it from other people. Sometimes there's an underlying motivation that's not spoken or even identified, but the meaning that's tied to that phrase matters. And that shifts things for us. It changes how we respond to God, how we respond to ourselves and connect to ourselves, which brings me to the topic for today. The phrase sounds like something like, don't trust your feelings. You can't trust your feelings. Your feelings aren't trustworthy. Anything along those lines that basically tells you to deny your feelings, to dismiss them, to overcome them, and just okay, if you're sad, well, you should just overcome it, and now you're going to be great, everything's going to be happy. And the reality is, people that try that either eventually keep getting disappointed to the point where they get disillusioned, they feel defeated, they give up. That disappointment can just build and build and build. Or they can hear this and start to lean so much on their own understanding, like Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust the Lord with all your heart, and all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. My brain just went on the rest of that verse, but you can look it up because it's a powerful verse. But that this concept of trusting, not leaning on our own understanding, is something that really stands out in my mind in so much of what I teach about, because there's another concept that Bob Hamp talks about. If you've heard of Bob Hamp, he does the Think Differently Academy, Think Differently, Learn Differently, different things around the way that we understand language and communicate, but also how we understand and connect to God. So one of the things that he talks about is this concept of in the Garden of Eden, how when Adam and Eve ate of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, that they shifted their source, that they went from completely connected to God to themselves as source. And it makes so much sense. How often do we try to live victoriously, to do things for God, and end up running out of steam and running out of energy, feeling worse, because we're actually leaning on our own strength, on ourselves as the source, the ones to decide what is good and what is right and what is wrong, in that sense that we're constantly trying to get it all right. It just leaves us exhausted and depleted. So this concept of denying feelings comes up with this idea of self-reliance, because we want to move into this logical part of our brain, and this part that says, no, you're going to overcome it by the way you think, you're going to choose this, you're going to do it, and you're going to overcome it. Well, who's overcoming it? There's a difference, and sometimes it's subtle and not easy to recognize, but there is a felt difference. I feel it in my body, and I believe others feel it too. When I went from striving and trying so hard to do things because I thought they were the right things to do, because that's the way that I overcame and I would start to feel better, but I wasn't feeling better. Exhaustion versus receiving from God. When he's the source, I want to actually connect to what's that means that I want to connect to him. And the only way that I can connect to God is when I'm able to connect to what's going on inside of me. And that requires honesty, vulnerability, risk. feeling exposed with God and trusting that he's going to hold my hurt, my anger, my frustrations, my wrongness, my badness, and not lash it back at me in judgment. That's not what God does. He draws us closer to his heart. And in our hearts, we experience those emotions. When we tell people to deny their feelings, we are teaching them a pattern of denial that says your heart, what's going on in your heart, your feelings and your experiences don't matter. Instead, rely on yourself. And that's how you'll live victorious with God, which just doesn't follow what God asks us to do. He wants us to be yoked with him for a lighter, to share the burden with others, and to know that even though it's not easy, it's a different place. It's coming from a place of rest and confidence and peace, even in the challenging times, because we're receiving from God. We're connected to God's heart and connected to God's heart through other people, because that's how he works, in relationship with people. So going back to this concept of when we tell people you can't trust your feelings, I think that perhaps for some people, they mean something different. And so maybe it's helpful for them because the meaning to those words is different. So when I say that it's not helpful and it's keeping us stuck, hidden, and hurting, I'm talking about a meaning applied to that says, don't have those emotions. Don't feel those emotions. They shouldn't be there. There's like condemnation, there's judgment, there's expectation and burden to not feel sad, angry, confused, whatever. But that you can't trust that that's a real emotion. Like it teaches you to not even believe what's going on inside of yourself, which just puts you in a space of not living in reality. What's going on inside of you is real. It is valid. It is your actual experience. Doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. Again, God is always drawing us closer to him. Okay, so I did a little segue from the point that I was trying to make about when I think some people may find this helpful for them, but I still caution, please don't say it to other people because of how frequently the meaning is damaging. For some people, I think what they're actually talking about is don't trust your feelings lie to you, you can't trust that emotion. I think that maybe, and you tell me if it's helpful to you, please go ahead and put something in the comments about why and how it's helpful for you. And I just ask that you be respectful and trying to understand that it's not helpful for a lot of people. But I think this is where some people could go with it, is that maybe like a sense of encouragement that feeling sad isn't always going to be like when you're feeling sad, you start to feel like you're always going to be sad, that it never is going to get better, and then it moves into those things of worthlessness and shame and guilt messages, right? But there's a distinction there. The feeling of sadness, the emotion itself, is not a lie. It is the truth of what you're actually experiencing. You can trust that it's a true feeling. Okay? The part that we don't trust or believe is the distortions, the lies, and the messages that get aimed at our souls. You're worthless. You'll never not be sad. You'll never not be angry. You'll never, whatever the message is that tears us down and pulls us away from God. That is something that we don't want to be listening to, right? That we want to shift gears on, is the way that I would put it. So maybe for some people that they're referring to something else. Like when I hear fear is a liar, I think what's really being meant by some people is that the messages that fear lead into about who you are and how God sees you and your worth and all that those are lies, because God says something different about who we are. But the fear is still the fear. We've got to understand that there is value and importance in naming the emotion, identifying that it's there, so that We can attend to it. So I talk about a growth path, particularly in the Cultivate Together group. This growth path, when we're starting to experience these shifts in our lives, where we're able to own our identity, we're developing who we are and developing how we show up in this world. That's part of what Cultivate Together is all about. Yeah, brain just went, totally lost my train of thought. Does that ever happen to you? Totally in live video. I'm not gonna, or not live video. I'm not gonna edit this out because I just think that's reality. Okay. So we're developing who we are, right? To be able to do that, we need to be on this. I was talking about the growth path. There's an honesty about what's happening. There's a rawness and realness to the thoughts and feelings that we're experiencing. So the growth path is first just becoming aware that they're there, right? So if we're feeling sad, we're feeling angry, we're feeling confused. When we're aware of that, the growth path moves us into the next steps so that something shifts inside of us. When we don't take a growth path, we're denying it, we're blocking it, we're tamping it down, or pretending it doesn't exist, which is what is happening when we tell people not to trust their feelings. When we're dismissive and discounting the reality of somebody's experience because we want to fix it, we want to make sure they're doing the right thing in our minds, that's self-reliance. God's asking us to have presence first. So this doesn't toss out God's the things that God does judge, etc. What we're talking about is ways that we grow, ways that we can connect to one another people so that we can connect to God's heart and experience more of him in our lives. Okay, that growth path, we become aware of the feelings, aware of the thoughts, aware of our actions, aware of our attitudes, aware of our desires, aware of our gifts. We're growing in awareness of different things. Sometimes that's just like that initial awareness. Maybe it's like you're driving down the highway, all of a sudden you realize you had a really strong reaction to that person that butted in front of you or in line at the grocery store. Might sound familiar for me. Oh, whoa, that reaction, there's something happening there. So that it might simply mean I'm tired, I'm hungry, I've been irritable for a long time because I haven't, there's different things that I'm kind of just letting go, I'm procrastinating on, I'm not resolving or whatever. It's like, there's just different reasons to it. First, there's the levels of awareness. Then when we're on the growth path, we're choosing the level of awareness, moving into acknowledging. Now I don't only have like that inkling that it's there, I'm actually acknowledging, identifying it, naming it, stating, oh, I am feeling anxious. I am feeling irritable. I am feeling exhausted. Okay, so now that I become aware, I've moved into acknowledging it, and now I can attend to that. What is the need underneath it? If we don't have the awareness moving into acknowledgement, into attending, then the signals of that emotion that are trying to tell us something important don't get resolved. They just get shoved aside, they get denied, and we lose connection to what's going on inside of ourselves and connection to others. So we want to continue on that growth path, awareness into acknowledgement, attending. The next steps is activation. Those are actual steps that we take as we're attending to what is our need or what steps do we need to take. There's a lot more to that. And it always kind of depends on the situation. And then the last step being assimilation. And assimilation is where it has moved from our head to our heart. Not just the things we say we want to do, but that we're actually able to do because it is completely assimilated into our body, into the core of our being. Things have shifted. We've had new neural pathways built, new experiences. And it's not just saying I want to do something and not doing it, like Paul talks about. I do the things I don't want to do. I don't do the things I want to do. And that sin also, like that, it's a separateness from God. We're self-reliant is being separate from God. We want to be spirit source, relying on God's spirit within us, listening, responding, connecting. And that is one reason I am so passionate about how these phrases keep us stuck, hidden, and hurting, because we are losing connection to ourselves, connection to God, and connection to other people when we deny the reality of our experiences and the feelings that we actually have we miss out. We miss out on God's comfort. We miss out on God's care through other people. We miss out on growing in courage because now we know that we're scared or sad about something and we're taking new hard steps because we're attending to it. We know that we need to try something new and we're building courage. We're building confidence and calmness in our spirits in that growth path. But we can't go there if we deny its existence. We can't connect to another person's sadness and reality when we're not connected to it for ourselves. And then we don't bring it to them. In those heartfelt connections, there is powerful, powerful moments of healing and growth opportunities. And God is calling us nearer to his heart. But how much of our heart is he getting when we deny it, when we ignore it? I've said a lot, and I hope it's not too confusing because I know that I have so many thoughts in my head about all of this. The growth path is like one huge topic on its own. But this series is about Christian phrases that keep us stuck, hidden, and hurting, because I long for the church as a whole, the body of believers in Christ in this world, to grow in connection to ourselves, to God, and to others, to reduce feelings of loneliness and aloneness, where God would have us experience something different, to grow in courage and character and develop the structure of who we are. Developing how we show up in this world is just like what lights me up inside. And I love that I get to be a part of it as a facilitator for the growth community, Cultivate Together. If you are interested in being part of that, please check out joleneunderwood.com/cultivate together. It is a membership-based community and it is a huge value. The price is going to be going up, but it is like you get a lot for that. We've done a book club around Changes that Heal. You get teaching topics, you get group calls, and I am very intentional about fostering experiences in the group that actually start to shift things for each of us as we're growing in courage, we're growing in character, and we're just growing in who we are. And so, and growing in connection. That was the other C. There's 3 C's: courage, character, and connection. And just a side note, character is not the next thing you have to do or should do. It's not putting on integrity, putting on kindness, putting on certain things. These are the things that I learned, or, like in the world that I was in with my kids and teaching my kids. When we learned character, it was about those specific things. No, character is like the structure of who we are. There's a design that God put within us. It's about how we show up in this world. And I can only use that word in that sense. It helps me encompass so many of the topics that I talk about when I talk about boundaries and needs and using our voice well and being equally valued, dealing with grief and guilt and shame and all these different things. They fit into this picture of character as Dr. John Townsend and Dr. Henry Cloud define character, which is the set of capacities needed to meet the demands of reality or the demands of life. So if you want to be part of Cultivate Together, we'd love to have you. We're looking for people who want to grow and want to be with other growth-minded believers. Love to have you be part of that. So check that out. There should be a link below as well. Unleash Sheets is a tool that we use to grow in that connection, to bring about the next steps. When you have an awareness of something that's happening, maybe it's a pattern or like just a situation that you're not sure of how to deal with. You don't even know what you're becoming aware of. Something's going on. You want to become aware of something. Use Unleash Sheets. That process guides you through identifying, so that process of acknowledgement and then moving into attending and then closing out with a step of activation. Over time, that builds assimilation. So Unleash Sheets, you can find that also at joleneunderwood.com/unleash. And if this video is helpful for you, I would love to know. I'd love, just hit like on the video so that I get feedback that, yeah, this was helpful for me in some way. Comment, let me know. And if you'd like to find more videos, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so that you know when a new video has gone up. There are more phrases that I'm going to be doing in this series. The other ones include forgive and forget, just let go and let God. I'm just being honest. I can't remember at the top of my head right now, but fear is a liar. That's another one. And I have a few more phrases that I'm working on. And if you'd like me to cover one that I haven't covered yet, please list it in the comments below, and I will take that into consideration as I continue this series. So that with the whole goal of us growing in that awareness for the things that we say to ourselves, what we say to others, so that we can grow in connection to ourselves, to God, and to other people. I hope this video has been helpful, and I look forward to seeing you around the channel or seeing you around online on Instagram, on the blog, and in the newsletter. I'd love to be able to stay in touch with you via the newsletter as well, so that you get updates on new content. Take care.